The night before the wedding, a teenage boy claiming to be my son suddenly blocked my path, but I've only just reached legal marriage age this year, and I've always kept my slate clean. But where did this big son come from? He told me that Gusinian had already kept a canary on the side, and even had a child with her, but I still had to marry him. Hearing this, I turned around wanting to leave. What kind of absolute mess is this? Marrying Gusinian is a good marriage that I planned for several years to get. I thought he was someone who escaped assault from a mental asylum. Just as I was about to call the cops, he said, "Mom, I know why you're so set on marrying Gusinian. This jade bracelet on your wrist was given to you by Grandma before she passed away. Her biggest regret in life was not seeing you marry an ideal husband, so you put all your effort into it, insisting on marrying the best man in Shanghai. But Mom, you need to think things through. Even though Gusinian is outstanding, he is by no means a good match. Grandma wanted you to marry well, because she hoped you'd be happy and successful. Don't put the cart before the horse." My hand, which was habitually stroking the jade bracelet, froze instantly. Before she passed away, Mom indeed called me into the ward alone. Dad was always socializing, on business trips, and planning for the centenary foundation of the Lin Group. At that time, I was only 10 years old, ignorant and clueless, only remembering Mom tightly clutching both my hands. "Ching King, you must find someone who treats you with a true heart in the future. Don't be like Mom, being looked down upon for a lifetime." When she took her last breath, Dad was still in a cross-border video conference, failing to see her for the last time. Such a secret thought in my heart. No one else knew besides me. My heart was filled with horror, but I still didn't dare to fully believe it. "When did he keep the canary?" 5 years ago, the boy spoke quietly. He seemed to utterly loathe Gusinian, his tone full of cold mockery. My heart violently tightened. So he never truly intended to marry me. That woman comes from an ordinary background and can't enter the Gu family's door. But Gusinian treasures her like a precious pearl, always putting in all his effort to plan her future until the old master passed away and his position in the group became stable. He then kicked you to the curb after you served your purpose, drugging you. I froze on the spot like a bolt from the blue, a cold chill creeping up my back. A voice in the dark told me that this boy didn't lie. I hurriedly followed up, "Then what about you?" He let out a self-deprecating laugh. I knew he favored his mistress and ruined his wife, so I collected evidence and prepared to report him. Before I could take action, I was strangled to death by his men and thrown into the Huangpu River. Then you, right now, I looked at the living, breathing boy with body heat before me, at a loss for words for a moment. His gaze, however, gradually sank. "Mom, do you believe in fate? Heaven took pity and let me come back, and this time, I don't want you to suffer anymore." Recalling the conversation, my mind was in an absolute mess. The Lin family and the Gu family are both prominent wealthy households. The engagement banquet invited half the socialites of the Shanghai business circle, and the media press releases have already been sent out. Tomorrow morning, the wedding convoy to pick up the bride will arrive. Time is pressing, so how can I just back out of the marriage like that? I first secretly brought the boy back to the Lin family villa. He looked around my room curiously, seeming very amazed. Suddenly, his gaze stopped on the art drafts scattered on the table. "Mom, so your drawing skills were already this good when you were young?" He immediately explained. "One year, for the Gu family old lady's 88th birthday, you personally painted a portrait for her as a gift. The facial features were lifelike, kind and solemn. That painting amazed the entire venue, and the old lady liked it very much. But after going home, Gusinian scolded you harshly, saying a wealthy lady should manage the household low-key. Flexing skills to vie for favor like that is just like those desperate minor socialites." My gaze turned cold and fierce instantly. Gusinian was clearly putting me down, unable to bear seeing me do well. Where in the world is there a husband who compares his legal wife to minor socialites? And to think he's still a highly educated person. At this moment, I haven't married into the family yet, and being an outsider, I'm terrifyingly sober. I don't want to obsess over bad things that haven't happened yet, instead carefully sizing up the boy. His eyebrows and eyes are actually very similar to mine, but the arches of his brows and his eyes reveal a detached coolness. The only flaw is at his left cheekbone, where there is a black birthmark the size of a fingernail. The boy seemed to notice something, hurriedly reaching out to cover the birthmark, his awkwardness revealing low self-esteem. I realized that this birthmark might have brought him bad memories before. I didn't mention this matter, asking him gently, "What's your name?" "Lin Xiaolin, you name me?" He nodded. At that split second, my heart softened into a complete mess. Lin represents being open and above board, with a bright future. I must have loved him very much, to give him this name full of beautiful wishes and hopes. And my last name is Lin. We are mother and son, having absolutely nothing to do with that man. After contemplating for a long time, I had my assistant Xiao Yuan go to the restaurant for me to get a piece of peanut butter bread. Lin Xiaolin and Xiao Yuan's faces both changed drastically. Lin Xiaolin had already guessed my intention, hastily speaking up to stop me. Mom, are you getting senile? You have a severe peanut allergy. This will cost you your life. I stayed calm up until now. It's already too late to back out of the marriage. The only way is to stall first. There aren't that many foolproof methods in this world. I know what I'm doing. I know the address of that canary. We can head over right now. I remember that illegitimate child is about the same age as me. Maybe she's already pregnant right now, or has even given birth to the child. Lin Xiaolin got more and more excited as he spoke. Once this is exposed, Gu Xinian will definitely be ruined, and the wedding won't happen either. It's no big deal for wealthy heirs to keep a canary, or even seek pleasure before marrying their legal wife. But openly keeping a mistress and even having an illegitimate child touches the baseline, and is despised by people. Any family with a bit of decency wouldn't want to marry their daughter over. I understood Lin Xiaolin's approach, but the real situation is far more complex than this. I let out a bitter smile. You understand your grandfather too little. Never mind a mistress. Even if he really has a child right now, he would only suppress this matter and still send me on to the wedding car tomorrow morning anyway. To him, a powerful in-law and the decency of the Lin group are both more important than me, his biological daughter. He didn't even see mom for the last time back then, so how could he ruin the marriage alliance for me? Lin Xiaolin still wanted to speak, but I had already devoured 2 pieces of bread covered in peanut butter. Having eaten enough, I had Xiao Yuan get rid of the rest, leaving absolutely no trace behind. After a long time, I felt my body starting to react. With 5 points of discomfort, I put on a display of 12 points, falling weakly onto the bed. Xiao Yuan, tell the chairman that I'm not feeling well, and call the private doctor. After Dad learned about this, he rushed over in a hurry indeed. Hearing the footsteps, I immediately stuck my finger into my throat and gave it a hard poke. The moment he stepped in, he happened to see me throwing up all over the floor. He frowned in great anger. Who gave the young mistress peanuts to eat? I said weakly. Dad, I didn't eat peanuts. Maybe someone intentionally mixed peanut powder into the food. I'm afraid it was done intentionally by some people, but the wedding definitely has to be postponed. He didn't respond to that, stepping forward to check my condition. Can you still stand up? I'll find a caregiver to support you tomorrow. Looking at it this way, he was unwilling to postpone it. I let out a bitter smile. I can push through, but I can't control my body's reactions. Having said that, I glanced at the vomit on the floor. If it's like this at the wedding tomorrow, that would be making a fool of myself in front of all the guests. How can that be allowed? Oh, his face darkened, and he didn't speak for a long time. My whole body was tense, layer upon layer of cold sweat on my back. He looked around the surroundings, seeming to ponder over something. See the doctor first. I'm going to see Chairman Gu right now. I knew that he had agreed to this, but that complex look in his eyes before he left made my heart hang high up. He is a scheming old fox. This little trick of mine might have already been seen through, yet he actually compromised. The private doctor prescribed medication for me. After he left, Lin Xiaolin ran in from outside with red eyes. Mom, why did you have to go this far? I forced myself to sit up, not wanting him to worry. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing with the dosage. It won't harm my core. In extraordinary times, one always has to be ruthless to oneself. Just like back when I wanted to win Gu Xinian's favor, I was equally ruthless to myself. Our first meeting was when his horse got startled while he was participating in an equestrian competition. At the critical moment, disregarding my life, I rushed out from the side to grab the reins for him. I was dragged for several meters by the horse, in an utter mess, barely managing to save him. Gu Xinian was still shaken. I've long heard that Miss Lin's equestrian skills are superb. Having the honor to see it today, it indeed lives up to its reputation. It's just that your injury, enduring the sharp pain, I revealed a pale smile. It's fine as long as Mr. Gu is okay. This was enough to leave a thrilling and deep impression on Gu Xinian. Of course, all of this was my calculation. I found out the time of his activity in advance and bribed the groom to tamper with things. The dosage for the tampering and the moment the horse got startled were perfectly precise. That field was soft sand. Actually, there was no life-threatening danger, and bodyguards were also arranged in secret. If it really got out of control, someone would back me up. But how could that compare to the shock of me being bloody and battered? I seemed to be sick, always achieving my goals by hurting myself, and even finding it gratifying. Anyway, no one cares or feels bad for me. Mom, I care about you. Lin Xiaolin seemed to hear my inner voice, half kneeling by my bed. Suddenly, a scalding tear dropped onto the back of my hand. Looking at the worried Lin Xiaolin, I suddenly realized that I was too self-opinionated to the point of ignoring this boy who crossed time and space just to comfort me. Grandpa, he actually cared too. My pupils contracted suddenly. Lin Xiaolin continued. In the past life, after you were poisoned, Gu Xinian immediately gave you a grand funeral. Grandpa rushed over and demanded to open the coffin for an autopsy. He didn't believe you would pass away from illness for no reason, insisting on investigating it thoroughly. At that time, the Gu family and the Lin family were on the verge of an all-out war. Although Grandpa finally backed down due to pressure, he actually felt bad for you. If it really was as Lin Xiaolin said, I suddenly understood that last look from Dad before he left. That wasn't calculation and indifference after seeing through me, but rather his helplessness and worry for me. Lin Xiaolin lay by my bedside and guarded me for the entire night. When the sky was just turning bright, I quietly got up, helped Lin Xiaolin onto the bed, and covered him with the blanket. Dad had already been waiting for me in the study for a long time. He wasn't surprised at all to see me coming. He sat upright in his leather chair, exuding an invisible, authoritative pressure. I lowered my head, confessing that I ate that peanut butter bread on purpose. Dad wasn't surprised either. He let out a cold snort, blaming it on a malicious party, just to create a diversion and buy time. He shook his head. Ching Ching, you are way too naive. My face darkened, and my tone grew stiff. I don't want to marry Gusinian anymore. Nonsense, he roared in anger, slapping his hand heavily on the mahogany desk. You went through all kinds of trouble because you insisted on marrying Gusinian. Nobody forced you. Now you're using self-harm tricks to back out of the marriage. This is utterly willful. I see that your mother passed away too early, leaving no one to discipline you, which allowed you to grow into such a worthless state. It felt as if something had pierced my heart. My anger reached its peak at that moment, and I blurted out, You have no right to mention my mom. You didn't care about Mom, and you don't care about me either. You only have eyes for business and power. When Mom was deathly ill back then, you refused to come back to see her for the last time. Now, who I marry has absolutely nothing to do with you. A crisp, loud slap echoed through the silent study. I only felt stars before my eyes, and half of my face was so painful it went almost numb. The thin trace of blood oozing from the corner of my mouth carried a rusty taste. I couldn't snap out of it for a long while. After hearing Lin Xiaolin's words, I clearly wanted to have a calm talk with Dad, but why did things escalate to this point again? Mom! Lin Xiaolin suddenly pushed the door open and rushed in. I immediately shielded him, demanding in a lowered voice, What are you doing? Here! Lin Xiaolin was like a defensive little beast, glaring at Dad with a mix of nervousness and anger. He clearly knew it wasn't appropriate to come in at this time, but he came anyway. Her not marrying Gusinian actually makes total sense. That Gusinian hasn't even married her yet, but he's already keeping a canary on the side, planning to strip her of everything after using her up. What's wrong with her not marrying a man like that? Dad looked at me in shock, and his usually confident expression suddenly shattered. What did he just call you? Mom? Dad truly was a business tycoon, always expert at catching the main point. Ignoring the pain, I explained. It sounds bizarre, but Xiaolin is indeed my, let's say, son from a past life. I recounted every single detail of how I met and recognized him. Lin Xiaolin added at just the right moment, Grandpa, you spoiled Xiaolin the most. Every time I went back to my maternal home with Mom, you would carry me to the study and let me play with the little paper windmill and wooden horse that Mom liked when she was a kid. Those toys are still kept in your cabinet. Dad shuddered violently. The hand he had used to slap me just now was currently trembling slightly in an almost imperceptible way. I also looked at him in total surprise, even sensing a hint of awkwardness. How come I didn't know about this? Lin Xiaolin even knew a secret like this. Even though Dad always detested talks of ghosts and gods, at this moment, he had no choice but to believe it. I gave a dry cough, trying to break the subtle atmosphere. Dad's secretary knocked on the door and came in, reporting, Chairman, Mr. Gu is here to visit. The three of us instantly grew serious. Dad regained his calm and majestic demeanor, calmly instructing, Ching Ching, go back to your room immediately. Remember, you are still sick. Having said that, he glanced at Lin Xiaolin again. You go over to my place to hide for a bit. Chapter 6, I'm no fool. Gusinian's visit at this hour was definitely not as simple as visiting a patient. This man was the one who twisted me around his finger in my past life, possessing a sharper intuition than ordinary people. I looked at my face that had just been slapped, still swollen and bleeding, and my heart sank. I absolutely couldn't let him see me like this. I immediately wiped away the blood at the corner of my mouth, took off my nightrobe jacket, and lay back on the bed wearing only my silk pajamas. Xiao Yan rushed over anxiously. Miss, Mr. Gu and the chairman are heading this way. I thought to myself, this is bad. Gu Sinian, that difficult piece of work, really didn't leave me even a moment to breathe. Dad's voice was already traveling inside. Last night, Ching Ching suddenly had an allergic reaction, vomiting and having diarrhea, with her whole body swollen. The situation was very dangerous, missing the auspicious wedding time is the Lin family's fault, so there was no need for Mr. Gu to make a special trip to visit. It wouldn't be good if she passed the illness on to you. Gu Sinian's gentle and refined voice came through. Ching King and I are about to become husband and wife soon, so how could I care about that? What I'm most worried about is her health. As they spoke, the two had already stepped into the room. I pressed the slapped half of my face against the pillow, covering my face with one hand, while just happening to let the red rash show for people to see. Sinian, why did you come? My voice sounded panicked and embarrassed. Go out quickly. I'm sick right now, and my face looks terrible. I don't want you to see it. How could I mind you being sick? He pretended to be annoyed, actually wanting to step forward and get closer to check. We've been engaged for a long time. Stop acting like a stranger and let me take a close look. If you keep hiding your face, how would I know if you're feeling any better now? My heart tightened. If I really took my hand away, wouldn't I be exposed? Dad immediately took half a step forward, seemingly unintentionally blocking his line of sight. Even though you two are engaged, it's still better to maintain a proper boundary. Gu Xinian put on an apologetic look, hastily asking for forgiveness. It was my bad manners. I was too worried about Ching Ching and acted in haste. Please forgive me, uncle. Dad said indifferently, it's fine. I gave two light coughs, appearing extremely weak. Having just argued with Dad, my voice, which had already been slapped, was naturally raspy. But it came in handy right now. Thank you for coming to see me today. Once I'm better, I will definitely visit the Gu family in person. Gu Xinian looked at me a few more times, before finally taking his leave. That moment of stalemate lasted only a few seconds, but the pajamas on my back were already completely soaked. After Dad saw him off, he called Lin Xiaolin and me over. This time, he didn't mock my strategy. At least you showed a bit of wit. Even Lin Xiaolin could see through the purpose of Gu Xinian's trip. He was testing us. Dad nodded. Regarding the mistress, don't act rashly. Gu Xinian is already on high alert. If we alert the enemy now, you guys will never find that woman. Having witnessed Gu Xinian's methods, none of us acted arrogant anymore. This matter indeed needs to be carefully planned out. Returning to my room, I sat before the dressing table, lost in thought. For such a major event as postponing the wedding, Gu Xinian didn't show the slightest dissatisfaction, but instead remained determined to marry me. In the end, who is the hunter? And who is the prey? I thought I was exceptionally skilled at scheming, but planning this and that turned out to be like a joke in the end. No wonder Gu Xinian agreed to the marriage. A smart aleck fool like me is simply the perfect target. Lin Xiaolin noticed my gloomy disappointment and pushed the small cake on the table over. Mom, having something sweet will make you feel better. I let out a sigh. Xiaolin, do you think I'm a complete failure? My relationship with Dad is an absolute mess, and the ideal husband I desperately wanted to marry actually wants to put me to death. In the end, I couldn't even protect my own child, grieving my loved ones while pleasing my enemies. I guess that's exactly how it is. That's not true. Lin Xiaolin looked at me earnestly. You are the best mom in the world. I carry half of Gu Xinian's bloodline, yet I didn't turn out like him. A person full of wicked schemes. It's all because of you. At that moment, the empty void in my heart seemed to be filled with light. I couldn't help but reach out to touch Lin Xiaolin's birthmark on his cheekbone. What on earth did this child go through? To still be so sensitive, fragile, yet kind and sincere? As if getting burned? He suddenly flinched back a bit. I couldn't help but ask him, Xiaolin, you seem to mind this birthmark a lot. He lowered his head and stayed silent for a long time, finally speaking in a low voice. This birthmark once brought endless pain to you and me. When I was born, the moment Gu Xinian saw this birthmark, he disliked it intensely, calling it an omen of bad luck. He said everyone in the Gu family is a genius among men, but I was born ugly. He even said I was a bastard you had with someone else. The cake I had taken a bite of was instantly crushed to pieces. That absolute bastard. Gu Xinian didn't love me, and the family avoided me like the plague. Only mommy never cared about other people's opinions, treasuring me like a precious pearl. And grandpa too. Speaking up to this point, Lin Xiaolin's voice was almost choking with sobs. When I was a kid, what I looked forward to most was going back to the Lin family with you. He was already thin, and slouching his back right now made him look even more pitiful. My eyes turned red instantly. Lin Xiaolin immediately suppressed his sobbing, gently tugging at my sleeve. Mom, don't be sad. I've long since figured it out. Gu Xinian never loved us, mother and son, so everything we do is wrong. It has nothing to do with this birthmark. But Grandpa is different. He loves you, and he loved Grandma too. I wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes and stroked Lin Xiaolin's head. Don't listen to Gu Xinian's absolute nonsense. Your birthmark is by no means a bad omen. This is the mark Mommy gave you, so that I can recognize you life after life. That night, Lin Xiaolin and I talked a lot. Even though I haven't actually given birth to him in this life, it felt as if I accompanied him through his childhood all over again, until Xiao Yuan quietly walked in. Miss, young master, the chairman is calling you to the study. Dad got straight to the point. Gu Xinian is more cautious than we imagined. I sent people to investigate, but the place is already deserted. Lin Xiaolin was stunned. The information he spent so much effort to bring turned out to be useless at this moment. Dad noticed his dejection. No need to lose heart. Gu Xinian being this anxious actually exposes a flaw. Lin Xiaolin and I snapped our heads up simultaneously, our expressions and movements completely identical. A hint of a smile couldn't help but leak from Dad's eyes. Grandpa, what do you mean by that? He actually naturally called him grandpa, and dad didn't correct him either, instead finding it quite endearing. If she were just an ordinary mistress, why would he need to be cautious to this extent? Gu Xinian is covering it up too heavily. I now suspect that woman's identity is out of the ordinary, not just some random girl. Lin Xiaolin's eyes lit up. Grandpa, you are so smart. Dad could barely suppress the corners of his mouth, his tone carrying a bit of doting. Then Xiaolin, take a guess as to what that woman's actual background is? I suddenly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It turns out my dad actually knows how to dote on a child. I really wasted over 20 years of my life. I'm not even as good as Lin Xiaolin at making him happy. Sure enough, Dad immediately turned his gaze toward me, becoming strict again. Don't just stand there dazed. Use your brain and think too. You're not even as good as a child. Lin Xiaolin, however, was serious right now, analyzing based on the clues Dad gave. Rule out ordinary girls, because there's no need to go through so much trouble to hide them. Rule out people from the entertainment industry for the same reason as above. Also rule out wealthy heiresses, since he could easily marry them as his legal wife. Why would he bother to marry mommy? Lin Xiaolin was suddenly startled, saying incredulously, could she be the daughter of an economic criminal? That would make sense. If this woman had a clean background, he could have just arranged a position in the company or kept her outside. Why did he absolutely have to wait until the old master passed away? I suddenly realized the truth, joining the conversation, because she would implicate the Gu family's entire group. As long as the old master was alive for one more day, he would never allow him to do such a messy thing. Dad nodded with satisfaction. Xiaolin's analysis makes sense. I'll go check on all the family members of economic criminals who have gone missing over the past 10 years right away. Grandpa, no need to go through so much trouble. I remember that woman's looks. Lin Xiaolin spoke up clearly. Having said that, he winked at me again, full of vibrant, youthful energy. I instantly understood what he meant. This was probably the telepathy between a mother and son. I also immediately volunteered. I know how to draw. Let me do it. Dad spread out the drawing paper for me. In my memory, this was my first time drawing in his study. Lin Xiaolin's voice slowly drifted over from the side. She has a pair of almond eyes, a very sharp face, and a red mole between her eyebrows. An unprecedented tranquility enveloped me. It turned out everything I had spent all my efforts to scheme and calculate for, I had already possessed long ago. As the final stroke fell, a beautiful woman vividly appeared on the paper. Lin Xiaolin's face was full of joy. Yes, it's her! Dad and I looked at each other, revealing a relieved smile. As long as we find out this woman's identity and verify the evidence, not only can we call off the engagement, but we can also doom Gu Xinian to eternal damnation. But Dad suddenly spoke up. Xiaolin, you go out first. I have something to say to your mother. And Xiaolin knew about the relationship between Dad and me, standing on the spot with some hesitation. After being dazed for quite a while, he still lowered his head and walked out. I knew Dad had something to say to me alone. He glanced at the drawing on the desk, his gaze becoming very distant. Your mother was also a famous talented woman in Shanghai back then. Your personalities are very similar. Stubborn, unyielding, and refusing to admit defeat at all. Ever since Mom passed away, my relationship with Dad had frozen to a breaking point. This was his first time directly bringing up Mom with me. Before marrying Dad, Mom had also been a legendary figure in the social circle. Even though she was a woman, she was exceptionally talented and had extraordinary insights. She had her own pride, but after marrying Dad, she was trapped in the identity of a wealthy household's housewife, failing to live the ideal life of marital harmony. Those socialites she once looked down upon mocked her behind her back, saying, "What talented woman! She can't even get her husband's love. She's just a bitter woman." It was as if she were trapped, depressed all day long. I didn't respond to his words. The moment he spoke, we would argue again. When your mother was gravely ill back then, I didn't stay away intentionally. He spoke with careful deliberation, his tone carrying a cautiousness I had never seen before. I was framed by a competitor, and the situation was critical. If I hadn't broken the deadlock, the entire Lin group would have collapsed. King, the Lin family seems boundlessly glorious, like oil on a blazing fire. But every step is taken on the edge of a blade. Any slight misstep would lead to eternal damnation. Since I didn't choose to be a wealthy, idle man at the beginning, there was no turning back later on. I let your mother down, but I have never had a shred of insincerity toward you, mother and daughter. If back when Mom passed away, Dad had explained it to me like this, I definitely wouldn't have believed it. It's treating it only as an excuse. But having been schemed against and dying a tragic death in my past life, and unraveling the clues step by step in this life, to see through Gu Xinian's conspiracy, I understand Dad now. The business world is volatile and unpredictable, and human hearts are sinister. Things truly are completely beyond one's control. Fate is an excellent scriptwriter. It sent Lin Xiaolin back to my side, and my hatred for Gu Xinian is completely insignificant right now. What I'm more grateful for is being able to have such a great family. Heaven has never been unfair to me. Pushing the door open to go out, Xiaolin was standing under the magnolia tree in the courtyard waiting for me. Mom, are you okay? I teased him. Did you eavesdrop again? He hastily explained. I didn't eavesdrop. I was waiting for you. I couldn't help but burst into a bright laugh, putting my arm around his shoulder as we walked out together. The karma of the past life should also have a closure. Dad's actions over there were decisive, quickly tracking down the true identity of the mistress. She turned out to be the daughter of Chairman Zhou from the Zhou group. Speaking of which, their family and the Gu family indeed have deep roots. Chairman Zhou was a former financial tycoon who was sentenced to prison for economic crimes. The Zhou group went bankrupt, and all its assets were seized. Chairman Zhou's daughter, Zhou Wan, should have been implicated, but she chose death over submission, reputedly jumping off a building to end her life. It seems Gu Xinian secretly saved her back then. Dad nodded. The Zhou and Gu families were neighbors back then, so the two must have been childhood sweethearts. Zhou Wan is currently heavily pregnant, settled by Gu Xinian in a sanatorium on the outskirts of the city. We can send people to secretly keep an eye on her. Hearing the words sanatorium, Lin Xiaolin's expression shifted slightly. No wonder. As I looked over in confusion, he continued. In the past life, after Grandma passed away, Gu Xinian set up a memorial room for her at the suburban sanatorium. Every year on the anniversary of her death, he would accompany you, Mom, to pay respects. Everyone praised him for being righteous, filial, and obedient. So that's how it was. My heart was already completely calm. It indeed fits Gu Xinian's character, using paying respects to my mother as a front, to cover up the fact that he was hiding his mistress. No wonder even fate itself couldn't stand it anymore. Dad's tone also became as cold and fierce as a knife at this moment. 3 days from now is the birthday banquet of the Gu family's old lady. We will expose this sanctimonious hypocrite in front of all the guests. Soon, the time arrived. The birthday banquet of the Gu family's old lady was a grand event, and the elites of Shanghai all came along to offer their congratulations. After everyone finished presenting their gifts, just as the dinner banquet was about to begin, Dad suddenly took a step forward. I take the liberty to expose the vice president of the Gu group, Gu Xinian, for harboring the daughter of an economic criminal. I ask everyone here to bear witness. The whole venue was in an uproar. The show Dad brought along was far more eye-catching than any performance. Old Master Gu said in a deep voice, "This matter is of great consequence. Does Chairman Lin have any evidence?" Naturally. At Dad's command, the bodyguards quickly brought a head nurse forward. This person was the manager of the suburban sanatorium. Back when the Zhou family's case broke out, Gu Xinian pulled off a stealthy switch, saving Zhou Wan and settling her in the suburban sanatorium. The head nurse glanced fearfully at the face of Gu Xinian, which had turned iron blue, but eventually gave a heavy nod. What Chairman Lin said is true. Zhou Wan is heavily pregnant, and is prenatal care at my sanatorium. Everyone gasped, whispering among themselves, "She's actually Chairman Zhou's daughter? I heard she embezzled 1 billion back then." No wonder the wedding between the Lin and Gu families was postponed. Chairman Lin is indeed brilliant. Gu Xinian argued loudly, "This is a frame-up. Just finding some random head nurse to make false accusations? Isn't it too childish to say I'm harboring a criminal's daughter?" Having said that, he turned back to Dad. "Chairman Lin, if you think the Gu family's status is too low, you could have just come to call off the engagement. Why use such a double destructive method?" Seeing Gu Xinian speaking with such absolute confidence, and without a shred of fear, Dad secretly thought to himself that this was bad. To avoid alerting the enemy, he had only sent people to secure the sanatorium, but hadn't actually apprehended Zhou Wan. He used carrot and stick methods in secret, forcing the head nurse to testify. For Gu Xinian to be this confident, could it be that he still had a backup plan? Secretly transferring Zhou Wan away without anyone knowing? While the two were in a complete deadlock, I suddenly took a step forward. I have another witness. My clutch move instantly turned the tables on the scene. The look Dad gave me was full of worry, as if saying, "What are you doing here?" I said calmly, "Bring Zhou Wan up." The moment these words came out, Gu Xinian's face changed drastically. Zhou Wan had been well nourished over these years. Her lower abdomen was slightly protruding, and her skin was glowing, except for a faint trace of sorrow between her eyebrows. The moment Gu Xinian saw her, he could no longer control his emotions, blurting out in a low voice, "1 wand." It turned out that the ruthless, fickle young master Gu also had an untouchable weakness. Zhou Wan locked eyes with him, her gaze full of complexity. She finally steeled her heart and turned away, turning around to face everyone. "Everyone, I am Zhou Wan, the daughter of the late Chairman Zhou. Back then, I was utterly disheartened and wanted to prove my innocence with death, but Mr. Gu saved me. I have survived under his protection until now." Old Master Gu didn't speak up to interrupt, but silently watched her, waiting for her to continue speaking. "Over these years, I've been like a rat in a ditch, never seeing the light of day. Mr. Gu gave me shelter and promised me his affection, for which I am deeply grateful. But all of this is stolen in the end. I don't want to watch Mr. Gu make mistakes over and over again. He put the Gu group in danger for me and used Miss Lin, intending to ruin the rest of her life. Every time I think about it, I can't sleep at night. Everyone, I stand out today not to accuse anyone, nor to return bad for good. I just want to earn some good karma for the child in my womb, leaving a way out for him so that he can live cleanly for the rest of his life. Zhou Wan's every word was filled with tears and blood, deeply sincere. The surroundings fell into absolute silence. Gu Xinian looked as if his soul had been drained, losing all his previous high spirits. He didn't struggle, nor was he angry. His expression was filled with sorrow. Wan, why didn't you tell me earlier? Actually, everything I did was just to make you happy. Having said that, he turned his head and glared viciously at me. Lin Qingqing, you ruined my everything. Even if I go to hell, I will drag you down with me. But I didn't feel a single shred of fear. At that split second, I realized Gu Xinian was actually just like me. Also a complete, obsessive, stubborn blockhead. Why is the Bodhisattva sitting backward, sighing that all living beings refuse to turn back? But I'm luckier than him. I waited for my little Xiaolin. As for Gu Xinian, the rest of his life will be spent living in endless agony. As the birthday banquet concluded, Old Master Gu also made the final judgment. Vice President Gu Xinian, for harboring a criminal's daughter, is now stripped of all his positions. His engagement with the Lin family is cancelled, his family trust is frozen, and he is exiled to the overseas branch. Chairman Gu Shu, for failing to educate his son properly and failing to manage the household strictly, will step down from the position of chairman, retaining his shares to retire overseas. As for you, Zhou Wan, considering your sincere repentance, you will be exempted from legal prosecution. It is specially arranged that after giving birth, you will work in the family foundation, and you are forbidden to leave for life. Everyone praised Old Master Gu for handling it appropriately. I let out a long sigh of relief, wanting to go home together with Dad. But I was stared at by him until my heart felt uneasy. Good job, Lin Qingqing. You actually acted on your own behind my back. Do you know how insanely risky this was? If Zhou Wan had firmly stood by Gu Xinian's side, all our efforts would have gone down the drain. She wouldn't. It's my gut feeling. As a fellow mother, I knew she wouldn't. That day, after finishing the discussion with Dad, Lin Xiaolin told me a secret. That was enough to completely subvert my thoughts. Mom, I feel like Zhou Wan might not necessarily be a bad person. After hesitating for a long time, he spoke up in a low voice. After Gu Xinian drugged you, I was furious and wanted to go down with him. But at the door of the study, I heard him arguing with Zhou Wan. Zhou Wan was crying so hard she could barely breathe, saying she never wanted any intention of entering the Gu family to be the mistress. Yet Gu Xinian took the life of an innocent woman. How could he face himself in the future? I stayed silent for a long time, making a shocking decision. I want to see Zhou Wan. On the eve of the birthday banquet, I disguised myself as a nurse and sneaked into the sanatorium. Zhou Wan wasn't surprised to see me. You know me? Her expression was calm. What's meant to come will always come, won't it? Miss Zhou, do you truly understand Gu Xinian? Mr. Gu has 1,000 flaws, but he treats me very well. My gaze turned sharp. Then what about the child in your womb? Stepping on another person's blood and bones right from birth? Is that what you want? Gu Xinian indeed has his methods, but can you guarantee he'll win every single time? Can you and your child afford to bear the consequences? Driven back half a step by my questions, Zhou Wan let out a lonely laugh. So what? Do I even have a choice? This life of mine was picked up in the first place. If it weren't for the child, why would I ever choose to survive like this? I said bluntly, testify against Gu Xinian, and I'll guarantee the child in your womb remains safe. Instead, she asked me back, Miss Lin, you've never been a mother, so how could you understand my heart? Zhou Wan's face turned pale, showing an intense look of exhaustion. I'm tired. Mr. Gu is good, but he never asked me whether I wanted this, or if I was willing. His love is too heavy. I can't afford it, and neither can the child. I understand. I looked at her calmly, my gaze sincere. The Lin family will adopt this child, letting him live uprightly under the sunshine, becoming a clean, kind, and good person, just like my Xiaolin. And I indeed fulfilled my promise, bringing Zhou Wan back to the Lin family, so she could focus on her pregnancy in peace. With everything finally settled, the 3 generations of our family finally breathed a sigh of relief, happily gathering around the table for a meal. Dad was the first to raise his glass. Since both of you don't drink, I'll use tea instead of wine to celebrate this massive victory. After Lin Xiaolin drank his tea, he still looked heavily weighed down by worries. He asked me, Mom, what are your plans for the future? His question caught me completely off guard. I really hadn't thought about it. So I pinched his cheek. Of course it's to stay with our little Xiaolin. I still want to see you get married and have kids. Mom, have you never considered your own path? He looked at me quietly. For some reason, I actually got a strange illusion as if he was going to leave me in the very next moment. Mom, in the past life, your paintings were worth 1,000 pieces of gold. Yet you willingly gave it up to cook and do chores, staying by the side of Gusinian and me. You should have a wider, vaster world. Who says a woman must marry and have children, guarding just a tiny, square-shaped patch of sky? I want you to go see famous mountains and great rivers, to see all aspects of the human world, and use your paintbrush to paint your own magnificent landscapes. Only this is your true life. Lin Xiaolin said word by word with a smile, but the silhouette of the youth before my eyes was gradually becoming transparent and blurry. I hurriedly reached out to grab him, but my hand clutched empty air. Xiaolin! Dad and I abruptly stood up, our faces filled with absolute anxiety. A thought flashed through my mind in an instant, and I spoke with a trembling voice. You already knew all along, didn't you? All the clues connected together at that very moment. If I don't marry Gu Xinian, this timeline will no longer have a Lin Xiaolin. He knew long ago that he would disappear, yet he still came back without any hesitation. I knocked over the bowls and chopsticks, my tears rolling down like broken strings. For your sake, I am willing, he said softly in a faint voice, to be able to see you and Grandpa reconcile with my own eyes, and see Gu Xinian get the retribution and punishment he deserves. That is enough. His voice began to break up, and his figure became like a thin mist. In my past life, my greatest regret was failing to protect you. Now that my wish is fulfilled, I have no more regrets. Xiaolin! Xiaolin! My thoughts were in complete chaos. At this moment, I couldn't care about anything else, only calling out his name desperately, watching him fade away into the void with my own eyes, fading away bit by bit, until that very last second, Xiaolin seemed to exhaust all his strength, to reach out his hand toward me. Mom, promise me that you will smile every single day from now on. I frantically reached out to grab him, but only empty space remained where he had stood. Dad? I finally couldn't hold it in any longer and wailed out loud, throwing myself into his embrace. Dad turned his head away, secretly wiping away the tears that were faintly welling up. King, look forward. Don't let Xiaolin's journey here be in vain. Later on, I listened to little Xiaolin's words, packing my bags to go see the mountains and rivers of this world. I visited many cities, devoutly bowing and giving thanks before the Buddha. Everyone in the world came to know of a female artist named Lin, who was incredibly skilled at painting Guanyin statues. Her paintings were lifelike and highly sought after, with the rich and powerful taking pride in collecting them. On the day of Guanyin's birthday, I prayed just like usual. After lighting the incense, I walked out slowly. A faint, soft meowing caught my attention. I turned my head to look, and a little cat walked right up to my feet with ease, rubbing against me affectionately. I squatted down, reaching out to scratch its chin. The kitten was completely snow white all over, except for a patch of black fur on the left side of its cheek. My whole body felt as if it had been struck by lightning. Xiaolin, is that you? Xiaolin? The people passing by saw me talking to a cat by myself, casting looks at me as if I were a patient. But I didn't care at all, directly picking it up into my arms. The cat was extremely well behaved, neither struggling nor scratching anyone, only meowing continuously. I couldn't help but touch that patch of black fur. This was the mark I gave to my little Xiaolin, so that I can recognize him life after life. He kept meowing, presumably because he was hungry. Let's find you something to eat first. Holding the kitten in my arms, it felt as if I had found my long-lost treasure. Now it's my turn to protect you, and I will never let you suffer even a shred of grievance. Come on, let's go home.